What's up, and welcome to another YouTube video. My name is Eddie, and I'm still addicted to Marvel Snap, and we hit Infinite this week, so I figured it was time for me to do my monthly video where I show you guys which decks I use to hit Infinite. Now, good and bad news for all of you guys. Bad news is, I actually only used one deck to get to Infinite this season, so I had a hard time trying to decide if I should do a video showing only one deck. I feel like that's very restrictive, so what I did is I did something different this month. I actually went with my community over on Twitch and in Discord, and I asked them who hit Infinite, and they all sent me their decks, so I have over 10 different decks to show you guys today from myself and people from my community who all hit Infinite, so we're going to showcase all of them, and I'm going to get to explain to you guys how to use each of these decks. That way, if you see the deck that I played and you're like, that's not for me, you've got over 10 different other decks you can try, and hopefully one of them will be the right one for you. Now, before we jump into the video, quick disclaimer on all of this stuff, because I like to do this at the start of every of these decks to Infinite videos. First up, I'm not a deck builder. I did not build any of these decks, and I don't want to take any credit away from any of the viewers, but I also don't know for 100% for a fact if they have built all the decks. All I can say is that these are the decks that were shared to me by them. So they may have found them online and then they used them and they just sent them to me. The deck I'm going to show you guys, same idea. It was a deck I found online, modified a card or two, and it built into what we hit here. So these are nothing new, nothing crazy, nothing that's like unique to myself. I'm not taking any of the credit for any of these decks. Second of all, hitting Infinite, as you'll see with all these decks, the decks really don't matter as long as you are comfortable with it. So you're going to have to pick a deck that you like, play with it a lot until you get really comfortable with it and you understand the combos for each of the cards that you have. And most importantly, you need to know when to snap and when to retreat whenever you're playing. Those will come with time. As you play a deck more and more, you'll get more comfortable. You'll know your combos and you'll know when to snap and when to retreat. Do not hesitate to retreat. A lot of people, including myself, are curious. I do this all the time. If you guys ever watch my Twitch streams, you'll know I'm on turn 6, I'm losing, but I think I have that one card. It's like, well, what if my one card beats them? And I play, and instantly I realize I didn't even stand a chance. I should have just retreated. Retreat when you can. Even if you snap early and you get later into the game and you realize like, oh, they've got me. Yeah, get out. It's fine. It's okay. Get out. Take the loss and don't worry about it. The next thing I want to tell you guys is try not to snap on turn 6, so what we call the boomer snaps. The reason for that is because if you snap on 6 when you're already in the lead, it almost always guarantees your opponent's just going to retreat. Don't let them retreat, play it out, and take the 2 cube wins. Sometimes snapping on turn 6 is actually worse than just playing out without the snap and taking the 2 cubes. So I highly recommend, if you know your opponent lost, like it's a guaranteed you've won, don't snap and hope they play it out and take the easy 2 cubes instead of the long, like the 1 cube that you worked your way all the way to turn 6 to get to. So those are a couple of the disclaimers. Let's jump into the decks. So as I said, I've got over 12 decks, I think, to show you guys. But the first one we're going to go through is the deck that I've used. This is my deck that I hit Infinite with. I started 73 this season, as I was already Infinite last season, so dropped us down to 73. And I climbed from 73 to Infinite with this one deck. I found it extremely easy, personally. But the reason it was easy is because I have been using this deck for like 6 months now. So if you guys don't know, if you've watched any of my previous decks to Infinite, you will know that Thanos and the Stones has been my favorite archetype deck to play in Marvel Snap. And I did take a break a bit from him to go into control decks, but I came back this season and played him and I had a blast. So let's break down this deck. I called it Legion of Thanos. Don't ask why. But Thanos is the main idea proponent of this deck, and you need the stones. Outside of the stone, we got Psylocke, Luke Cage, Jeff, Cosmo, Shang-Chi, Iron Lad, Blue Marvel, Professor X, Valkyrie, Claw, and Legion. A lot of the cards in this deck can be replaced. Before I forget, I'm going to try my best to give you guys options of replacement cards for all the decks. But if there's something you're curious about, make sure to comment down below which card you're missing from which deck, and I'll make sure to give you guys ideas. And if it's a deck that's not mine, I'll go ask in the Discord in my Twitch community directly to that person which card they should have to replace, and I'll come back and let you guys know in the comments. So feel free to comment down below anything you want. And also, if you are Infinite and you're watching this video just for fun, go ahead and share your deck in the comment section down below so other people can use it and help each other climb as well. Also, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe and all that fun jazz as well, just to get more people's attention on this. Okay, let's talk about the deck. So, the combo is pretty simple for me. I honestly throw all the stones as quickly as I can. If you get the Mind Stone early, that's excellent. Power Stone early is excellent. Soul Stone is probably the best, my personal favorite for turn 1. The only thing I try to recommend is keep the Reality Stone as long as you can. And the Time Stone is always turn 3. Turn 3 Time Stone is the key to this, because if you do a turn 3 Time Stone, you can then do a turn 4 Professor X. And honestly, what I try to do is I play turn 1, turn 2, and turn 3 the stones all in the same lane, because my opponent, I've noticed, they think that I'm going to keep that lane open for much later. So if I have already 3 stones in one lane, once I do the Time Stone and I Professor X that lane and my location's full, it almost guarantees that my opponent either didn't see it coming or anything like that, or it helps me take the lead if I already have the Power Stone, which is 3 power, another stone that's 1, a stone that's 1, and then Professor X that's 3. Another option is that if you notice that there's a location that's really easy for you to take, Professor X early is the game winner. The reason why is if you are able to lock down a lane with Professor X and the stones, and you've won that lane, you only need to win one more lane. And look at the rest of the cards here. There's a lot of easy ways to counter one other lane. The other good news is that if you do Professor X and lock down a lane and you screwed up and you're not in the lead, you've got Blue Marvel, you've got Jeff, and you've got Claw. You have 3 different options on trying to get that lane back after you've shut it down. So I really, really love the combo of trying to shut down a lane with Professor X by turn 4. So your best goal is a Time Stone. Psylocke is your backup. So if you do not have the Time Stone, Psylocke on 3 is going to let you also do Professor X on 4. So those are your 2 different options. Luke Cage is, this is the cool thing about why I really like this deck. You've got Luke Cage, you've got Cosmo, you've got Shang-Chi, and you've got Valkyrie. You've got 4 tech cards. I consider all 4 of these tech cards to counter a lot of different opponents. So depending on what your opponent is playing, you've got 4 different ways to counter them after you have locked down a lane with Professor X. If you just need straight up high power, that's where Thanos comes in. And then you've got Legion and the Reality Stone for 2 different location control. This deck, I have found it to be such a powerful deck. I've never been concerned about any locations. I've never been concerned about any archetype that I fight. The only exception to the rules are ongoing. Ongoing decks are the bane of my existence. The good news is I didn't fight too many ongoing decks. I'm not seeing them be very popular right now. And what I mean by ongoing are like Patriot decks, Cerebro decks, and anything like ongoing and then Spectrum, for example. Those are the 3 decks that I feel like anytime I face off against those, this deck doesn't really do well against them. So I basically almost always insta-retreat when I see those. Cerebral 2 and 3, especially, like every time I've seen them, it was just a retreat on turn 2 or 3. As soon as I noticed that's what was coming up, I was like, I can't fight that. I get out of there. I even thought Valkyrie would be really good to help me against Cerebral 2, but honestly, just anything ongoing, I didn't really have the right counter to it. So this deck, if you're facing a lot of ongoing, might not be for you, but anything else, you can counter. High cost cards, you've got the Shang-Chi. On reveals, you've got the Cosmo. You've got Valkyrie to control a lane as well. There's so many options. Really, really love this deck. I never really got concerned with the climb. It was very easy. I went from 90 to infinite in less than an hour on Tuesday on my stream. If you guys want, you can go back and watch the VOD if you want, but very easy climb with this. It was A cube after A cube after A cube, especially with Claw. Everyone forgets about Claw. Very easy way. Another good thing with this deck, this is the last thing I'll say before we move on. Bad locations are good for you. Luke's Bar, Sanctum Sanctorum, Death's Domain, Altar, all of those locations that are restrictive are actually excellent for you. So with a deck like this, don't Reality Stone or Legion to remove those. If anything, put more of them everywhere. If you got an early lead, Legion on Death's Domain gives you the win. If you have Sanctum Sanctorum, you've got Claw and Jeff to jump in there. There's a lot of different ways like this. So I highly, highly recommend, if you're able to, and you see those bad, difficult locations to play in, use those to your advantage with a deck like this. So this is my deck. This is the one that I use. This is my baby. A couple quick replacements. Jeff is, I know a lot of people ask about Jeff. I will say, If you don't have Jeff, you should really try your best to get him. He's one of the best cards in the game. He is replaceable by like a Nightcrawler, technically, for the tough locations, but he isn't going to really help you if you don't have Professor X. Valkyrie, I would say Valkyrie right now is really key to this deck at the moment because no one expects her. Iron Lad, oh, I didn't even talk about Iron Lad. Iron Lad is easily replaceable by a lot of different cards. I have him there because technically, Iron Lad hitting anything is good. He hits Thanos, he gets that +6 from the Power Stone. He hits any of the stones, you draw extra cards. You hit Shang, you get to hit some card. Cosmo, excellent. Claw, excellent. Legion, but anything of these is excellent for Iron Lad. So he is really good in this deck, but he is replaceable. I would say, if I'm going to scroll down here, if we're sticking in the realm of the 4 cost, I mean, Khazar is excellent because of all the stones. You can just give them that extra buff. You can also, I wouldn't recommend Captain Marvel. A lot of people are thinking Captain Marvel because she got a little bit of a buff nerf recently. I don't think she fits well because you're going to be locking down and playing a lot of stones. She's not really going to move. Enchantress, I would say you could put Enchantress in this deck, but you got to be really careful because you can actually screw yourself. If you hit, for example, your own Professor, I don't know, you can't really hit Professor X, but your Blue Marvel or your Claw or your Stones, and you also have Cosmo, so you could counter yourself. So yes, she would be good and in place of Iron Lad, but she wouldn't necessarily be the perfect or best one. Miles is really good, and honestly, if you have Stegron, I'd go Stegron is a good one. Who else could you put in this one? Oh, Sentry. That was the one I said. If you guys don't have Sentry, or if you do have Sentry, he's an excellent replacement as well for 2 main reasons. If you've shut down that full right rain, you're not going to get the -10. Or even if you do put in the Void, you've got Valkyrie. So Sentry has a 410, and not really having much of a negative effect because of this deck is also a really good replacement if you don't have Iron Lad. If you're missing other cards, just make sure to let me know and I'll comment which ones I would replace. But that would be the easy way. Most people hopefully have the rest of these cards, but again, if you're missing any of them, let me know. And honestly, like, Luke Cage is there for high evo decks or like hazmat decks, but if you're not facing a lot of them, you can replace Luke Cage with like Lizard or, again, just anything that fits within whatever you're facing off against. All right, let's move on. I've got a bunch of decks over here. The first one I actually want to talk about is my wife's deck. This is my wife's deck. She went with Classic Galactus. She went from 73 to Infinite using a Galactus deck. Now, she does have a bit of a different style here, but the idea is Galactus with the Classic. She's got Def in there, Destroyer, Null, Doc Ock, Shang-Chi, Wave, Venom, Electro, Wolverine, Yondu, and Howard the Duck. Now, a lot of people in the comment section or on our Twitch were asking, why Howard? She likes him because he has a hat. That's her main reason. Is he needed in this deck? Absolutely not. You can easily replace him with so many different things, but he's there. He is better than most people expect if you do have Howard, because you can tap to see the top card of your deck. It helped my wife a lot to know whether or not to wave on 3. If she can see that the top card of her deck was Galactus, she would do it knowing that Galactus was coming up next, so she can use the Galactus afterwards. This deck is very simple. A lot of people have probably seen this kind of stuff before. Your goal is to either wave into Galactus as early as possible, and then you can either Doc Ock on 5 and then Shang-Chi the rest of it. You can go classic way of just building up using Electro and then Galactus on turn 5, and then you have enough stuff on the board that you'll have a free Def, a very high-powered Null. If you are not able to play the Galactus, the good news is there's a lot of options here. You can Yondu, Wolverine, and Venom to just get a lot of stuff getting destroyed on the board. Use Destroyer as your backup to just destroy as much stuff as you can on like turn 5, which lets you hopefully play a very early, a very cheap Def with either a Null. You also have the backup of, this is a perfect combo. Doc Ock with Shang-Chi are always excellent together. You pull all the cards out into one lane, Shang-Chi that lane, you've won it. So there's a plan A, which is always Galactus. Your plan B is the Doc Ock Shang-Chi combo, and your plan C is just destroy everything and then Def and Null. So very simple Galactus deck. Highly recommend this one if you're a fan of Galactus. I know a lot of people hate the decks. I'm okay with it. I find, it's a simple thing. Is it easy to counter? Absolutely. It's very easy for people to counter your Galactus. But again, with this one, you have a plan B and C. So even if they do counter your Galactus, you have other options. Again, Howard is there because he's got a hat if you like him. If you don't like him, replace him with any other card and you'll be fine. Next up, let's start from the beginning here. We're going to go through every single one. I have the name of the user. So in this case, our user was Miss J, and the type of deck it is. So in this case, this was a Sauron deck. And just so you guys know, I did play all these decks as about 15 to 20 games on stream yesterday, so I have a general idea about them. I tried my best to only keep the decks that I felt like, yes, I can see how people hit infinite. If I couldn't understand the deck myself, I didn't put them in the video, just so you guys know as well. But again, different tastes for different people. You might see this and you're like, well, I can't see how I can win with this, and that's totally fair. So let's talk about this one. The Sauron deck, as you probably know, is 0, Ebony Maw, Scarlet Witch, Lizard, Sauron, Spidey, Shang-Chi, Enchantress, Typhoid Mary, Vision, Red Skull, and Giganto. So it's a bit of a different style of the classic Sauron deck, but the idea, if you guys don't know, Sauron's going to remove all of the ongoing abilities from your cards in your hand. So in this case, it removes the negative aspect of Typhoid Mary, Red Skull, Ebony Maw, and the Lizard. So that's the idea behind them. Scarlet Witch is there to help you with specific locations. You could replace Scarlet Witch with like a Rhino or anything, but she is an early card, if I remember. It's like pool 1, pool 2, so you probably all have her, so you can use her. Very good to control the locations. One of the things I learned via gameplay of this deck is being patient. I'm the kind of guy, again, as you probably saw with my Thanos deck, I try and fill the board up as quickly as I can by turn 1, turn 2. With this deck, you don't actually ever have to feel that way. Like, I panicked and I played Ebony Maw early. You can hold on to Ebony Maw all the way to the end, because if you draw that Sauron, he's a 1/7 that can be played on turn 6 with like a Red Skull or a Vision. So don't feel like you need to rush into your card play. Zero's there and Enchantress are there as backups if you don't draw Sauron, so you can remove the negative effect of your cards like Ebony Maw, Red Skull, Typhoid. Shang-Chi is your tech card. Enchantress can also be used as a tech to face off against your opponent. Spider-Man is a control card, which is really good too. With this new effect, his 3/5. First, a 3/5 is an excellent stat, so just having a 3/5 Spider-Man is really good. But if you have a location that normally you can't get into, Spider-Man's there to help you. And the last thing about this deck is try to always play in the middle and the right lane so that you can always keep your left lane open for Giganto. So a lot of people don't expect the Giganto. A lot of people will expect they see Red Skull, they think Taskmaster, so they'll try and go for the kill and then expect you to lose because you're trying to copy your Red Skull with the Taskmaster. Instead, you jump up with a Giganto, still get the power without ever having to worry about copying a card that may have gotten destroyed. Another thing a lot of people always ask, why is Shuri not in this deck? Sure, the reason why we didn't put Shuri in this deck is it makes it too obvious. Shuri, Red Skull, Taskmaster. It's classic. Everyone sees it coming. It's just almost guaranteeing your opponent's going to counter you. So we decided to change it up here. Like I said, with the Giganto, and removing the Shuri gets you a pretty good turn 4. You have a lot of options for turn 4, like a 1 and a 3 or just one of the 4 costs. Lots of options with this deck. Don't sleep on this one. I played it a lot last night on stream, and I was shocked as to how well it was. I was able to get easy 8 cubers and 4 cubes with this deck. I just had to understand to be patient. I was rushing at the start. I lost a lot of games at the beginning because I kept trying to play turn 1, turn 2, turn 3. But after that, I started realizing, I was like, what if I just hold off and I wait and I wait and I wait? And I ended up just starting with Sauron on 3, and then turn 4, 5, and 6, I was able to play so many stuff, and I was getting the board pretty filled up pretty quickly. So highly recommend this deck if you're a fan of Sauron. Next, we got Thrill House Negative Tribunal. I have mixed feelings on Mr. Negative. Okay, so this is a Mr. Negative deck. So if you guys don't know, what it does is that it flips all the energy of your cards. So you're basically trying to get Mr. Negative on turn 3 or 4 using Psylocke, and then from there, you're building up one location. You're playing all your cards as much as you can in one location, so like an Iron Man and a Mystique, so that you can then play Living Tribunal and spread the energy across the board. This deck, when it goes well, it is insanely good. Like, crazy good, but it is very difficult to pull off. Boss is there to obviously make all your cards have 3 power that are already in your hand. Luke Cage is there to help you not get affected. Ironheart gives the buff. Mystique is there to copy Iron Man specifically. You really want to copy the Iron Man. Bishop is just a really good card for a negative because he can, with the flip, is excellent. Magic gives you that extra turn, so it gives you more chances to be able to pull off the combo. Jane is there for after playing Mr. Negative. You want to play Jane to get your Ironheart and Mystique into your hand so that you're guaranteed to be able to do the combo, or Iron Man as well if you flipped him in the board. And like I said, Living Tribunal spreads the energy across the board. I will say I had the hardest time with this deck of all the decks that I played, but I just retreated every time I saw I didn't have Mr. Negative by turn 5. Once you see you don't have him, just get out, take the 1 cube loss. But once I had him in my hand, if I started in my hand with a Psylocke and a Mr. Negative, it was a turn 1 snap, and it was a guaranteed either my opponent retreated later or it was an instant win. Not a lot of people are expecting the Iron Man Mystique Living Tribunal, so it was fairly easy to just get that win. And like I said, try playing Iron Man Mystique in the same lane, just so that that one location gets doubled twice. It gets insane, and then Living Tribunal spreads it out. Very, very fun deck to play once it works, but it is a bit of a trickier one to play, so depending on how you feel. This one, you need negative, you need Living Tribunal. So if you don't have Living Tribunal, I would say this is probably a pass. There are other negative decks out there, but this is specifically built towards the Living Tribunal. Okay, next up, we got Tyrael Snap Cerebro 2. I'll be honest with you guys. Before this deck, I was not a believer of Cerebro. I was not a fan. Did not like playing Cerebro. I didn't understand how anyone even thought it was fun or even good. I played this on stream, and I think I went like 5-0, and I was like, wow, this is good. Then I started losing here and there, but once I understood, this is insane. So let's talk about this. Don't sleep on Cerebro 2 specifically. I don't know. I still don't know how I feel about the other levels of Cerebro, like Cerebro 3 I still struggle with, but I have become a believer Cerebro 2 with this deck. So we got Echo, Iceman, Goose, Hazmat, Luke Cage, Spider-Ham, Cerebro, Mystique, Brood, Magic, Storm, and Blue Marvel. So very simple. You want to Magic to get an extra turn. You want to Storm the bad locations, anything that like gives you bad cards for the deck. And then you're basically just playing all of your cards, and then you're finishing with a turn 5 Blue Marvel, turn 6 Cerebro Mystique, and then turn 7 you just, if you can, Hazmat with like a Luke Cage and a whatever else you want. Goose is going to help you control a location. Storm with Brood just gives you a guaranteed win in one lane. Honestly, this deck is just throw stuff on the board and everything gets the buff. What are the negatives? Locations. Anything that like gives you a buff to your cards. Like, there's a lot of ways that your deck can get ruined with Cerebro 2. But when that happens, retreat. When you have an easy location, when you've got stuff that are going for you, this is so easy to win. Goose and Storm. Goose, if you guys don't know, opponents cannot play cards that cost 4, 5, or 6 in that location. You having Goose and other stuff in there just guarantees that your opponent can't beat that and can't counter it. And then storming a different lane with Brood and Magic gives you an extra turn. Oh my goodness, this was insane. The one recommendation, a lot of people know about the Magic, and a lot of people have counters to Magic. So I did lose a couple games because I waited till turn 7. I highly recommend, if you can, yes, play Magic. Turn 5, Blue Marvel. Turn 6, throw in your Cerebro and Mystique if you can. Because a lot of people are playing cards to stop Magic, so turn 7 never actually happens. So instead of waiting till turn 7 and hoping for turn 7, just play it early, give yourself that early lead, and then finish turn 7 by playing, Iceman or any of the other cards that give you that final little buff. But don't hesitate to play the Cerebro Mystique on turn 6. Try not to play them before that unless you really have to. But a turn 6 Cerebro Mystique is an excellent combo. Very much now a believer of Cerebro 2. I honestly think this is the deck I want to play next season, personally, to try and hit Infinite. So, because I actually had a lot of fun with this one. Again, easily replaceable. Spider-Ham. I know a lot of people may not have Echo and Spider-Ham. They're not key to this deck. Anything that's a 2 power, you can put in here. Really, any card that you have that's a 2 power that you like, go ahead and put it. I don't think you need to worry specifically about which one it should be for Echo or Spider-Ham. There's a lot of options, so I trust your judgment. Any of them. All of these are easily replaceable, obviously, except for Cerebro Mystique and Blue Marvel. Magic and Storm. I think Storm is key. I don't think you need to have Magic, but getting that extra turn obviously is always good. But honestly, Magic is everywhere right now. So even if you wanted to take magic out, I think you're still going to end up having a turn 7 because a lot of opponents play magic. So lots of options there. All right, next up we got Zlurps, and his deck, I called it It's Not Attuma. Because Atuma's in the deck, and I was like, interesting, I haven't seen Attuma be played in a very long time. So let's talk about this deck. You got Kitty Pryde, you got Zero, Angela, Luke Cage, Zabu, Armor, Jeff, Scarlet Witch, Enchantress, Crossbones, Attuma, Typhoid Mary, and voila. This is a very cheap deck, right? As you guys can see, there's the highest cost is 4, which means that, again, you can Angela and Kitty Pryde. That combo is insane right now. You've probably seen a lot of people. Lambie's deck, if you guys don't know, that's a very common combo right now. Kitty Pryde with Angela is excellent. Luke Cage helps a lot with and Armor, and Attuma is another combo right there. Attuma will not get destroyed with the armor. Zero is there as your backup to either Attuma or Typhoid Mary. Enchantress can cancel out the Typhoid Mary ability as well. Scarlet Witch is there to help you counter locations. This deck is just a very plain, simple, high power cost card, and you can play a lot of stuff by the end. You won't ever feel like you have to decide between option A or B by turn 6. You probably can just play all of your cards. Really good deck. A lot of people don't expect the Crossbone. A lot of people don't expect the Attuma. So it makes this deck really strong in that sense. And again, you still got the Enchantress as a counter. If you don't have Jeff, honestly, I would replace Jeff with like a Shang-Chi just to have an extra tech card. But again, you do have armor there, so expect your opponent to be able to play high cost cards in your armored lane as well. But I mean, I know that Jeff is the common card that a lot of people are missing. If you're missing any of the other cards, make sure to comment down below and I'll let you know. Alrighty, next up, we got Down Lemur's deck. This was a very popular deck a couple of months ago now. The Black Bolt Stature / Darkhawk deck. This is still just as good as it ever was. So you've got Korg, Spider-Ham, Zabu, Jeff. As you guys can see, Jeff is everywhere. So I highly recommend, if you don't have him, get him. Killmonger, Darkhawk, Shang-Chi, Enchantress, Rockslide, Iron Lad, Stature, and Black Bolt. Exactly what you think it is. Turn 5 Black Bolt gets you a turn 6 1-cost Stature that you can combine with any of the other stuff. You can do Stature with a Darkhawk, and a Rockslide on turn 6. Because of the Zabu. Lots of really good ways to do it. Spider-Ham is always a good one to just counter your opponent and make the little piggies, so your opponent have less cards to fight. You've got 2 tech cards in Shang-Chi and Enchantress. Just obviously be careful not to Enchantress your own Darkhawk. Rockslide and Korg are there to help you hit, add rocks to make your Darkhawk stronger. Killmonger is there as a tech card as well. Zabu is there to help you make all your cards cheaper. And then Iron Lad, again, same idea. Iron Lad copying any of these cards except for Stature is really good, so that's never a bad card to have as well. A couple things to note on this deck. Down Lemur mentioned, try not to play Darkhawk before turn 6, so try and hold on to him by turn 6. Turn 5, the plan A is Black Bolt because he's a 5/7. That's insanely strong. But if you don't have Black Bolt, a Spider-Ham plus one of the four costs, that's now 3 because of Zabu, or a Jeff with a 4 cost is really strong as well. So you do want to try and keep, at least, if you're going to take Spider-Ham out, put like a Lizard in there or something else that's high power for 2 costs, so that your turn 5 isn't only dependent on Black Bolt. You have a plan B with either Ham or Jeff with something else. Very strong deck. Just because it got nerfed doesn't mean it's not playable anymore. As we saw, Down Lemur got to infinite with this deck very easily. Then we've got Mr. Gooey Kablooey, a good friend of ours. Gooey Kablooey made a homebrew. So this, he has confirmed that he has built this himself. Obviously, you guys might be thinking you've seen stuff, combos like this before, but this is his own little homebrew. I gotta be honest, this is kind of, I don't know how to explain this deck, but it works. I can tell you it works. I played this one for about an hour yesterday, and I was getting fairly good, consistent wins with it. So obviously, Nebula is a really good card. Daredevil, Medusa, Spider-Ham, Jeff, Mr. Fantastic, Storm, Captain Marvel, Crossbones, Professor X, Gamora, and Arnim Zola. I actually was able to do an Arnim Zola on Nebula yesterday, and I got a 111 Nebula across 2 locations. My opponent just ignored her, and then he was like, think they were going to Shang-Chi. Zolad, and I made 2 nebs. That was 111 because my opponent kept skipping and ignoring them. So don't sleep on that. Captain Marvel as a 4/5 is just excellent overall. Daredevil, Professor X, classic combo. You play Daredevil early, you just shut down a lane wherever your opponent's not playing on turn 5. You got Mr. Fantastic and Jeff again. As always, Jeff is here to help you back up the Professor X if you need to. Crossbones is just a strong 4/8 card, and he can't get hit by Shang-Chi. He's just right under that power. People are under appreciative of how strong Crossbones is. Gamora is a very classic. If you've already shut down one lane, possibly two, that Gamora is almost always guaranteed to hit your opponent on that turn 6. And then again, Nebula is just getting that long-term buff. Medusa as a 2/5 once you play her in the mid is really, really strong. Everything about this is really good. And like I said, Zola into the Gamora, Zola into Crossbones, sorry. Zola into Captain Marvel, have 2 Captain Marvels. Really, Zola is the unexpected play because not a lot of people see him coming when they see all the other cards. So again, very fun deck to try out if you guys are interested. Whew. All right, we've got 1, 2, 3, 5 more decks to go through, guys. I have very long video, but I hope you guys are appreciating all of this. Next up, we got Havoc's Destroy deck. Classic Destroy. Very simple. Nova, Squirrel Girl, Kitty Pryde, Carnage, Magic, Killmonger, Venom, Lady Deathstrike. I know, right? I don't know why she's in this deck either. Nimrod, Arnim Zola, Null, and Death. Very simple, classic Destroy. Play as much stuff as you can. Build up that Kitty Pryde. Destroy stuff with Killmonger, Carnage, and Venom. Get a cheap Death on the board. Get a strong, high-powered Null. And Arnim Zola, whatever you need to. Zola into Null, if you can get that turn 7 with Magic, is stellar. Because you destroy your Null, and you make 2 new Nulls. But the 2 new Nulls get double power because the first one that got destroyed adds power to the other 2. Very good combo. Highly recommend that. Nimrod is also, as always, excellent with the Venom Carnage. If you turn 5 Nimrod, you can Carnage and Venom, and then Nimrod just go whoop across the board. Lady Deathstrike, if you guys don't know, I got her this week. I'm not a fan. I think she's fairly weak. She's in this deck. I think we were trying to make her work, and there were certain spots where it was good, but she's really not necessary. If you guys don't have her, really don't worry about her. You can replace her with any other Destroy cards. Like a Hood is really good. Any Destroy card will replace Lady Deathstrike very, very well. Okay. Next up, we got Killer Kai. He went with a very simple original deck. These are all pool 1, pool 2 cards, and you'd be shocked as to how good this is. Elektra, Hawkeye, Nightcrawler, Medusa, Star-Lord, Scarlet Witch, Morph, my boy, one of my favorite cards, Mr. Fantastic, Groot, Namor, Claw, and America Chavez. I'm not a fan of Chavez, so this is the one that I would say you could probably take her out. But everything else, very good. Elektra, the Kitty Pryde, no one sees it coming. Easy way to get rid of Kitty Pryde. Hawkeye with the +3 now is actually fairly good. Nightcrawler to move around, so you can play Nightcrawler onto the Hawkeye and just move to another location. Medusa is a 2/5. Star-Lord is also really good as a 2/5. Scarlet Witch to control locations. Morph, RNGesus, hoping that everything goes well. Mr. Fantastic to help you control, to get into lanes. You want a Namor alone because he is a 4/11. And you've got Claw to jump in there and add another 6 and leave him alone. So you can get up to 417 in one 17 power in one location just with that one card. Very, very good combo. And then Chavez is your hopeful turn 6 if you need to, whatever you need to, just play her and win. This is very simple, early cards. Nothing needs to be replaced, but you'd be shocked as to how good a deck like this can do when it's just simple cards that are very easy to be played in any order, and you can win with it. Next up, oh, we got 2 more. I already talked about the Galactus one. 2 left, everybody. Anomi's Lockjaw and Thor deck. Okay, classic Lockjaw. I literally talked about this in my previous video. You want Lockjaw, you're going to throw in Wasp in there and keep rotating until you get the high power cards, right? So you got Infinite, Magneto, Hulk, Chavez, Odin, Jane, High Evo, Jubilee, Thor, Lockjaw, Spider-Ham, and Wasp. So keep throwing all your cheap cards into Lockjaw and hope for big cards to pop up. High Evo's there to make your Hulk and Wasp stronger. But if you do not have High Evo, no problem. Just put in Dracula. Dracula in there is your Hulk and Wasp are going to be a bit weaker, but Dracula is going to at least be able to give you an extra card that gets hit, so you're going to get even more power on the board very easily. And Dracula, outside of Lady Deathstrike, not a lot of counters to him, so very easy way to do it. The cool thing with this deck that Anomi was mentioning is if you don't have Lockjaw, your plan B, it could just be Thor in one lane completely by himself, build up your other 2 lanes with whatever you want, and then you just go the Hammer, with Odin in a separate lane, and you have added 12 power to your Thor. So your Thor becomes 16 power, and you still got your Odin that's an 8 power somewhere else. So you're adding 16 and 8, and that's only with turn 3 and 6, not counting what you can do on turn 1, turn 2, 4, and 5. So again, the plan A is Lockjaw, throw stuff in there, get all your big cards on the board. Plan B is Thor and Odin somewhere else, and you've got an excellent combo here. Jubilee is excellent to just draw cards out. Again, if you're missing any of the top cards here, it could be replaced by anything else. Like if you're missing Magneto, just put any other 6-cost high-power card. If you don't have Infinite, which I think most people do in Pool 2, but in case you are, again, just any of the high-cost cards. Jane is there to help you. This is a good turn 5 card to play because you'll get your Wasp and the Hammer into your hand, so you could just destroy stuff. This is a very simple deck to play, and it's always strong. No matter how many nerfs they get, Lockjaw always stays a very, very good combo card. So make sure to check this one out. And the last deck here from Marissa. You've probably seen this everywhere because I think Sera Surfer is one of the top tier decks right now. It's a Surfer deck. You want to get Nova, Forge, the new and improved from the previous OTA Forge, who gives +3 now. You've got Brood, Surfer, Killmonger, Nakia, Dakin, if you guys have the season pass, Thor, Polaris, Spider-Man, Maximus, and Sera. Very, very simple deck to play and insanely strong. You hope you draw Silver Surfer by turn 6. You hope you get Sera by turn 5. You get Sera on 5. You get to play 3 of your 3-cost cards. They're each going to cost 2 on turn 6. So you can have a excellent high-powered turn 6. Dakin early gets you the Muramasa Shard, which you'll be able to destroy with your Killmonger and also destroy your Nova. So you get +1 across the board with the Nova. You get the +4, the double power to the Dakin, which if you played Nova first, you'll become a 5 and then doubled up to 10. You've got the Thor here, which same idea with the +6. So you're going to have a 310, another 310, and then you buff them with Silver. This is just insane, guys. And then you've got Forge. Forge adds +3 power. You can forge your Brood, and then you've got 15 power on the board with just 3 Broods. Because each of the Broodlings keep the same power. So if he becomes a 3-5, the 2 Broodlings are also 3-5. If you hit the Dakin, he becomes a 3-7, and then he gets doubled to 14. Insane Forge. This new Forge in this deck is excellent. Polaris and Spider-Man are 3-5s. Straight up, that's a good stat with a bit of control. Excellent. Maximus is a good turn 6 play because you don't want to necessarily give your opponent more opportunities to draw their combos with all their cards, but a 3-7 and then getting the Surfer buff, oh, that's really good. I honestly think to this day, this is still probably the best deck in Marvel Snap. So if you're not playing Sera Surfer, you are missing out. And that, everybody, are all of the decks that I wanted to showcase. Did you guys like this kind of video where I talk about multiple decks? Let me know if you do. I'll try and do this every month where I get to showcase all my viewers' decks on top of my own. If you guys did enjoy it, make sure to comment down below everything, which one you're going to try, which one you like, which one you don't like. Tell me everything in the comments. Give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe for more. As always, have a good rest of your day. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.